can you reach the next level of teaching? We challenge primary teacher Vicky Edwards to go from good to outstanding. The top inspector observes one lesson. 2 experts fine-tune her practice and beef up her presentation. She then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
I think I've got to keep thinking that it's just another day in school, and I do cope with things day in, day out. And if it's all caught on camera, then so be it.
Pools Park Primary is a 2-form entry school in North London.
And maybe what about you walk away from each other?
Vicky Edwards is in her 3rd year of teaching.
I want to be the best teacher I can be.
Oh, Chelsea, you've got some attitude today.
It could be competitiveness, but I don't see it like that. I don't want to be better than anyone else. I want to know that what I'm doing is the best I can do.
And that was the coolest move I've ever seen. Can I wear it like that, like a headband?
The school rates her teaching as good, and she's being mentored by Deputy Head Jack Newton.
Vicky's a good teacher. She has the potential to be outstanding. What I see is somebody who is willing to take risks in order to improve the classroom environment.
Hello. She's very kind and helps us all the time when we need help.
My goodness, you wrote that all by yourself?
She does good learning.
Oh, that's in the wrong place.
And she works hard.
Hang on, please don't shout out at me. Right, that's 1 minute gone for everybody.
I think I am capable of doing outstanding lessons. I'm worried about the behaviour management side because the observation day may not be a good day.
Over half-term, Vicky catches up with her friend Claire.
I met Vicky when I was a student. She's very creative. School needs to be fun and it needs to be a whole bunch of experiences rather than when I was 7 I got a level 3.
What about my weaknesses?
She's not very good at making cups of tea.
Vicky's planning the next phase of literacy learning when she will be observed next Tuesday afternoon.
I think I've got it. I think we're kind of getting there anyway. On Monday I'm going to have a general day of a bit of a book investigation talking about character, setting and plot. And then on Tuesday we're going to start by thinking about characters because I think that's probably the easiest one for them to do first. And I think we're going to use some role play with some props and costumes to maybe in mixed ability groups think about a character for their own story. Wednesday we're going to think a bit more about the settings. Then on Thursday move on to the plot, and then on Friday kind of drafting some ideas for their actual stories. So that's kind of it for next week.
It's Tuesday, and the school inspector Claire Gillies is here to observe Vicky. With hundreds of inspections under her belt, Claire certainly knows an outstanding lesson when she sees one.
I'm coming to see Vicky teaching her Year 2 literacy class. I'm certainly going to bear in mind it's the last session before they go home.
Vicky's got 45 minutes to impress the inspector.
If I show you this book, who are the characters in this book? It starts with a Sam. Sam, well done. It's Sam in this book, isn't it? I think of one word that might describe what he looks like, or maybe what he does, or maybe what he says. And I want you to whisper it to the person next to you. Talk about Sam.
I don't believe the criteria are different for outstanding lessons at any age. Stimulating content, clear learning objectives, and total involvement of the pupils and students. That's the key, whether it's 18-year-olds or 5-year-olds.
Who did I say we were going to concentrate on today? Sam. That's my picture of Sam. Who's going to tell us the first word they thought of?
He's small.
He's small, you're right, he is small. That's part of the story, isn't it? That's part of the plot that he's small. Well done. Tasha?
He's angry.
He's angry. Sometimes he's really angry. Is anybody in here angry today?
Yeah.
I bet you can show me your angry faces. we're going to use some of the things that are out on the table to think of our own character. So I wonder if you could think of some words. If I put this on...
Vampire.
Could be a vampire. What words, if I pulled this face, what words could you think of that would describe me as this character? Sarah.
A hungry, blood-sucking vampire that needs blood.
Oh my goodness, is that who I am as this character?
Yeah.
Your challenge is to use something in the classroom to become a character. What words could you describe your T-Rex? Strong. Go and write that down, Peter, with your partner. Okay, let's see people sat down with their partners, starting to think about the words that describe their character.
Oh, we got blonde. What's that?
Are you big? Are you little?
Crazy?
Why are crazy?
What do you look
She's
like?
a crazy
What do you like
blonde,
to
is she?
eat? Hey, well, that's a good one.
Oh, dumb. Do you mean stupid dumb?
You've already got
Oh, dear. I think many a good lesson can have buzz, but then you would review, have all the pupils really understood what they were up to, or really absorbed, or got inside the new work. Are the children learning?
I don't boil children, I put them in the oven and then I get them out and I chop them up and I use my knife and fork to eat them for my dinner, yes.
Guess who this person is? Cloak. Spoiled. Selfish. Like that word. Pretty. Who do you think it might be, Christian?
Selfish lady.
A selfish lady.
Chelsea.
Are you a princess?
Yes.
Come on then, princess. Has anybody got any questions they want to ask this spoilt, selfish princess?
Not really. Are you Little Red Riding Hood? No. Why are you selfish?
Good question. Why are you selfish?
What do you do? Because I think I'm the best.
What a good answer, because she thinks she's the best. Well, let's give the princess a big clap. Thank you very much, princess. Let's just keep concentrating for one more minute whilst I tell you that you have made your own characters. And who can tell me what the point of this lesson was? Chelsea?
We were going to be making up our own characters.
We were going to be making up our own characters.
Miss Edwards, can we wear our stuff outside? The easiest bit was when you had to put the clothes on, and the hardest bit was when you had to write.
What did Claire think of the lesson?
Vicky, thank you very much for letting me enjoy that lesson with you too. Tell me how you feel it went as a whole. Did they learn what you wanted them to learn?
Yes, definitely. I think they probably took it a bit further than I wanted them to take it. Really, the plan was that they started thinking about the character and different words, but actually they started taking it a step further to thinking about stories behind the character and, you know, where they'd come from and that kind of thing.
Right. Now, there were some lovely moments in the lesson, so let's focus on them first, and then I'd like to try and pull together how much did they learn and what did they actually get out of it. They certainly, some of them practiced writing, and some of them did some very quick, quite good writing, and there were some excellent words appearing around some of those pictures that they drew. It was also a wonderful opportunity for them to develop social skills, just as much an objective to keep them working well together. You got some very good questions. That wonderful one about why are you selfish, which you said that was a lovely question. So that was great, because that was a really they were really thinking about that one there. You're obviously sticking ruthlessly to the behaviour management, but you weren't going to stop until they were all quiet. So there were lots of strengths in there. The one thing I wasn't quite clear about, because you gave me your plan afterwards, that's great. Yeah. I don't think they got clear in their mind the difference between the character of somebody and what that person looks like. And I thought, well, we're perhaps getting a bit confused here. And I think they could have got, look, some of these words are what they look like.
Yeah.
Some of them are what they're like. And then the other thing I wasn't quite clear about was whether they were meant to be remembering characters they'd met in books from all the various hats or bits that they were putting on.
No, I wanted them to come up with their own. Inventing.
Yeah, I thought that one of the things that the children would do would be to be very stereotypical about what they found on the tables, and obviously that was kind of a drawback of the resources, was that they were very stereotypical.
Did you notice the dumb blonde in the corner?
I did, yeah.
Stereotypical.
Yeah, and I could see that happening.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't think it was so much that they were thinking of characters that they've come across in stories. I think that it was that stereotypical idea of the selfish princess and, you know, the bad burglar and that kind of thing.
Perhaps that fundamental, what am I trying to get them to learn in this lesson? Because that perhaps wasn't 100% clear. I'm not sure what they went out with.
A bit disappointed about the first observation because I felt the lesson went really well. I really enjoyed it, the children enjoyed it. So I thought it was actually really successful. And then when Claire gave me the feedback, I was really kind of gutted that she hadn't seen the things that I'd seen.
So, disappointment and disagreement with what the inspector said. Sound familiar? It's time to bring on the experts. To boost Vicky's progress to outstanding, help comes from communications coach Roger Terry and primary literacy consultant Tanya Silverman. They start by watching Vicky's lesson.
One of the things that she does have is some very nice gestures that really work well with what she's saying.
One of the good elements is the strength of her relationship with the children.
She's got a good bond, a good rapport, and they've all got their hands raised up and very eager to participate.
From a literacy point of view, I think she needed to have a much clearer view of what she wanted the children to learn.
Sometimes she loses presence completely, and that's when I've seen the class go into a little bit of chaos.
A much tighter structure on what she wants them to learn, I think that would help support that as well. I think the two things would go very well together. I really enjoyed watching your lesson, and I particularly like looking at the children in your class. A lot of characters in there. I think part of the battle of being very successful in the classroom is firstly engaging your children, which obviously you're really good at doing that, and being confident enough to do the drama, which lots of teachers are nervous about. But I actually felt that they weren't sure how you wanted them to move on. And I think perhaps we could have put that in the plans with some maybe key vocabulary or maybe some key questions. And I was just thinking about that sort of idea. What sort of vocabulary would you want them to use to show that they'd sort of progressed and their learning had moved on?
Possibly I would have wanted kind of more vocabulary about you know, behaviour, personality, those kind of words, which I didn't focus on enough during the input to the lesson. So that's something that I'd perhaps go back and, if I was to do the lesson again, put that into the planning.
So I was thinking if we could maybe look at some strategies, perhaps for targeting that learning. The bit where you drew the person, you gave the children a really good model, that they really enjoyed it. You had a very nice head. And you had the sort of hair like this. And you then started to begin to ask the children to group the words well, which is the activity you were looking at. But then you could perhaps have done some key questions there. Perhaps you could have written at the top, what do they look like? And we could ask the children then to go around and generate some of the vocabulary you were looking at. That for children is quite easy to do because it's a physical thing. What's harder, and what I think for Year 2 children need to move towards, is perhaps moving on to what the character might say. So, for example, asking the children, OK, so you've said your character is selfish. What would a selfish person say? I mean, that might be a way in. Was that something you think might work in your class?
Yeah, definitely. They're quite aware of emotions and feelings, so I think they would be able to take on the character and say how that person was feeling and what they would like to say.
I felt you were really good at getting behavioural modelling and supporting the behaviour in your class, which I think would be part of outstanding practice, making links across all subjects. So that's one area. And then also, I think, if we're thinking about the higher learners in your class, what would you want them to write about?
I think what I really wanted them to do was have their characters in their stories actually doing something and being quite central to the story.
That's excellent. So I think I would begin to model that idea of what would that character do. The transition from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2 in literacy is very much taking it from what you could just see and what's the underlying part of character. One of the things that was excellent in the class is you had enough props for everybody that opened their imagination. But I wanted to think about how we could use the props to take the learning up a stage. So particularly here's our favourite prop, the furry hands. I think by asking the children who might have furry hands, and what do you think the children would answer to that?
Probably a monster or a witch.
A witch, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And so then you might say, how would the witch stand, or how would the witch look? So you might have that sort of, you know, sort of grr type position. Or you might say they were looking menacing, and beginning to drop in that higher level vocabulary. You might say, what did the character say? The character growled. And what does that show us? That they're scary.
When they're all doing an activity and I want to get their attention, I tend to move around because somebody over there will be doing something, but then somebody over there will do something and I'll be looking, so I end up wobbling around.
Your attention's all over the place, yeah, and so then you don't get any attention at all. The stiller you are, the more you'll focus the attention on you. I'm just going to give you a little push. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to push you this way as well. So all I want you to do is just put your hand over your belly button. Okay, just have it there and notice what happens. How does that feel different?
I don't know, I feel much more stable.
You feel much more stable?
OK, purple class, let's see who's listening. OK, let's see people sat down with their partners, starting to think about the words that describe their character.
The other thing we talked about, those ways of being that are useful to have in the classroom that sometimes you can't find. And you were talking about things like calmness and enthusiasm. We're going to show you a little technique which we call spotlighting. And we're going to imagine a circle on the floor, and you can imagine it like a really lovely blue spotlight that you could step into. So what I need you to do is I need you to think of a time when you were calm.
Just at home, sitting on the sofa, reading a book.
At home, sitting on the sofa, reading a book. And just take yourself back to that place now. What do you notice?
Just everything feels still.
Everything feels still and calm, OK. Just take it and just step it. What's the differences that you feel?
Like I can deal with it all.
Like you can deal with it all, and it's going to be absolutely fine. Now you've got that connected, you can take that anywhere you like. So you can step out of the circle. So have you imagined picking that up and taking that with you?
Yep,
great.
It's in my pocket.
It's in your pocket, all ready to go. That's great.
I'm feeling really positive, actually. With Roger, it was really interesting to kind of learn some new techniques for keeping myself calm and still in the classroom.
So, with Vicky's final observation just weeks away, it's back to the classroom to put Tanya and Roger's advice into action.
Do you need to wash your hands? Yeah, you're right. Thinking about something we might be able to do today that will help us when we cook tomorrow. Clinic was great. Refreshed my memory about lots of things. Agreed with some of the things that Tanya said. And she kind of really made me think about that lesson in particular.
What you need to be able to say at the end of the lesson.
It's been quite hard since fitting some of those things into lessons. But some of the ideas that Tanya gave me were really specific to that role play lesson.
What do you think comes next? This one? Put in the oven?
So it's been trying to think of ways to use some of those ideas.
Yeah, we can do that one next.
It kind of happened naturally anyway, like the lesson this morning was an instruction lesson where it was kind of more formal and there was more structure to the writing. It was really specific what I was asking them to do.
Good push, Ben, that's really nice writing.
I've been practicing lots of the stuff that Roger told me. I've been standing more still.
OK, these are the instructions that I want you to follow now.
Actually kept me a lot calmer. Some of those techniques have really helped me kind of focus on what I'm saying, and I think the children have responded quite well.
Well done, Miss Edwards, I'm very impressed with the standard of this writing.
It's really nice, isn't it?
Do you know what?
Vicky and her deputy head mentor, Jack, reflect on last week's observation.
I can see a princess.
So you're watching this? How's it feel?
It makes me cringe a little bit. It's weird seeing myself. It's great seeing the kids, though, because you can spot what some kids are doing that you miss, kind of what things are definitely missed in the lesson. But it's quite nice. It's quite good to watch.
It's obvious from the footage that there's a lot going on, and the children are proper into their learning. So it's getting the balance with: is it time for teacher or adult intervention to share learning, or is it time to let them go? But I think it's certainly, I mean, having watched you, it's something I'm going to be looking at in my teaching. Can I take the opportunities to pause? And especially if you manage that time, if that time is short, I think that's going to really benefit your teaching. I think there's some tension between the judgment that Claire made on the day and what we see on a day-to-day basis with Vicky's teaching. Vicky came out very pleased about the lesson, and I think she was stunned at some of the feedback, and it really took her back. However, there's positives in that, because the opportunity for Vicky to reflect as deeply as she's done over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been powerful. Vicky is trying different techniques, and they will improve her teaching. I can see that already, and I think Vicky can.
With another week of practice to go, Vicky's class are learning about instructions with the help of teaching assistant Kate Handford.
The first instruction is mash the bananas with a fork.
Kate and I are very lucky to have a really good relationship. She's involved in planning, we talk about what we need to do, what certain children need to be able to do by the end of the week.
Makes sense. Maybe
I think I'm more aware of her role because I am reflecting on my practice all the time.
But I don't think any of these children want any of this.
No, I don't think so.
Because they all went, ugh! I've really enjoyed working with Vicky. She's really vibrant, she's very lively. She has a very dynamic approach to teaching.
What kind of bread is it if we've got perfect pizza pizzas?
Planning's still been very difficult because it's just such little time, and also trying to kind of not to quash any kind of creativity and not to quash those kind of lessons that I really enjoy doing by planning it to every tea. It's just finding that balance still. How does it taste, Shani? Nice.
It's the day of the final observation. Claire Gillies is back, and it's crunch time. With all that expert advice and weeks of practice behind her, will Vicky have made it from good to outstanding?
So this book is called Mr. Wolf's Pancakes and it's by Jan Fernley. We're going to read it together to start with, and then we're going to be thinking about one of the characters in the book, and today we're going to be writing from that character's point of view. Mr. Wolf's Pancakes by Jan Fernley. One day, Mr. Wolf was feeling hungry. He fancied some pancakes. He called on Chicken Licken, who lived nearby. "Please, can you help me read this?" he asked. "No," said Chicken Licken, slamming the door in Mr. Wolf's face. Bang! How do you feel when you ask people for help but they won't help you? Sad. Sad? Order.
Lonely.
Lonely. I like that word, lonely. Well done, Water.
Why wouldn't the chicken let him read it for him?
Good question. Sarah?
Because he'll think that Mr. Wolf's trying to eat him.
How do you know that Mr. Wolf wants to eat Chicken Licken? The words don't say he wants to.
Because wolves like eating chickens.
Wolves like eating chickens. If we think about our science that we've done, we know about different animals and what they eat. So maybe Chicken Licken thinks that Wolf's going to eat him. By the end of the lesson today, we're going to be able to say that I can understand a character's point of view. Can anybody tell us if they know what these words mean already? Because funny enough, we've all been doing it already today. Porter?
People's feelings.
Maybe people's feelings.
Stop and think about what they're thinking about.
Good answer. Think about what they're thinking about. And that's what you're going to show me that you understand today. You're going to show me that you understand how Mr. Wolf feels.
Maybe.
By using some words that Mr. Wolf would use. By writing a diary of Mr. Wolf. We've got a diary here, look. Dear, but there's some words missing. So we're going to think about what words we can put in the spaces that will show us that it's written from Mr. Wolf's point of view.
What's a word that's like angry, Tasha? I am so... What would it be?
Opposite side.
Okay. See who's listening in a second. What I'd like you to do before you carry on writing is swap with somebody next to you and read their diary and just make sure that that person is writing from the wolf's point of view. Okay, what can you tell me about Daniel's writing?
I write knocked.
Knocked. So I have knocked on every door. David, do you think that shows that Christian's writing from the wolf's point of view? Well done, good boy. What I'd like you to do now is think very, very carefully what this lesson was all about. Can somebody tell us what this lesson was about today? What were we learning today?
How Mr. Wolf feels.
How Mr. Wolf feels, yeah. What were those words that we looked at? Warder?
Point of view.
Point of view, well done. I'm going to very quickly read Wasim's. Dear Diary, today I am feeling unhappy because no one is helping me. Today I am feeling sad because no one is helping me count my money or helping me make my pancakes. And the three little pigs don't help me write. And I'm no good at writing. So I wrote my recipe all by myself. From Mr. Wolf. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wasim, you should stand up and take a bow. Well done. That was excellent. You wrote from Mr. Wolf's point of view. Very nice.
I learned that a point of view is when that you have to think about someone else when they're what they're thinking about and not think about yourself.
Well, thank you very much for letting me watch another lesson. I really enjoyed this morning's Mr. Wolf session. Did you feel you achieved what you set out to achieve in that session?
I think so. I think if not more. I was quite surprised with some of the comments they were making on the carpet. So I was really pleased with that they, you know, they were thinking about what they were hearing in the story.
Absolutely.
And they were and using their past knowledge as well, and their knowledge of wolves and chickens and,
yes.
and Red Riding Hood and that kind of thing.
Well, there were some very successful elements, I thought, in that lesson. I mean, if we just sort of look at what did you want them to learn, which was an understanding of the idea of point of view and the idea of writing a diary and being somebody else, Mr. Wolf in this case, I would say the great majority were writing as Mr. Wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously had concerns about was it just a couple of them?
More than anything, I just wanted to make sure that the children knew what I wanted the outcome to be.
Right.
And that's why I stopped them and had that kind of mini plenary and kind of let them assess each other's works.
Oh, how often do you do that? Because I think it's a very successful technique, and I wondered if you perhaps should do it a little more often so they get into the habit of pairing.
Yeah, it's something that I've just been doing recently in this term, thinking about going into year 3 next year. I want the children to start looking at each other's.
With that really wide level of ability level in the class, I think you can feel proud that everybody moved on from where they were at the beginning to the end of the session, and also how wonderful the learning support assistant was, because she was using exactly the same words that you'd been using when she was asking questions and guiding them and helping them to try and read the words at the top and the words in the boxes. So I think if we pull it together and look at that as a whole, I think you can see there were some outstanding elements, and that, you know, it was a much more successful lesson, I hope you feel too, than the first one. You know, you're well on the way to being an outstanding teacher. So thank you very much for letting me watch you again. I thoroughly enjoyed the lesson.
Thank you. The feedback was great. I really enjoyed it. It was nice that Claire picked up on lots of the points that I thought she would. You know, I worked hard on preparing the lesson. I've thought that, you know, I've had doubts. I've been frustrated. I've been upset. You know, it's been an emotional roller coaster going on this experience.